Hello everybody and welcome to this very impromptu edition of not morning, not coffee, actually evening, and tea of all things. So the reason that I'm doing this really impromptu video blog is because today I had a day off from work and I read a book. That probably doesn't sound as that much of a surprise as all I ever seem to do is read books, but I read a book. And it was really special, you guys. Seriously, I don't think I've ever been so wowed by a book in a long time. And of course, by a long time, I mean since I basically read The Bone Season for the first time back in the summer. But the book in question is Love in the Time of Global Warming by Francesca Lia. I know that Miss Block is particularly well known for what's called her Weetzie Bat series. The series was first published back in 1989. Which was before I was born, and I've never actually read the series. I'd never heard of Francesca Lia, but I managed to find this book anyway. This book kept getting recommended to me on Goodreads and Barnes & Noble and various other places based upon things that I liked and things that I buy. And the reason that this book was recommended to me is because this book is an incredibly clever reimagining and retelling of Homer's Odyssey set in a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles. You had me at Homer. For those of you who don't know, I'm a really huge fan of the classics, particularly classical mythology and within that epic poetry. So when you're looking at that, there are two big heavy hitters. For the Greeks, you have Homer with the Iliad and the Odyssey. For the Romans, you have Virgil with the Aeneid, which is essentially a combination of the Iliad and the Odyssey anyway. In this case, Ms. Block is pulling from Homer's The Odyssey. For those of you who don't know the story of the Odyssey, which if you live in the US you should, because basically everybody studies most, if not all of it, during their first year of high school, the Odyssey is the story of the Greek hero king Odysseus and his 10-year journey to return home to his island kingdom of Ithaca, where his wife Penelope and son Telemachus are waiting for him, and also trying to bat off suitors who want to marry Penelope and take over the island. Basically a whole bunch of jackass dudes want to be king. Odysseus himself doesn't think the journey is initially going to take that long after the war at Troy, which in and of itself lasted 10 years, but he suffers a great deal of setbacks on his way. Cyclops, sirens, Circe the witch, journeys to the underworld, talking with a prophet named Tiresias, getting captured on Calypso's island, the Lotus Eaters, meeting the guy who holds the winds. Basically, a lot of shit goes down in this journey. So where does Love in the Time of Global Warming fit in? I've already mentioned that it's actually a retelling of this journey, but it does it in two different ways. It actually manages to both diegetically and non-diegetically involve the Odyssey. For those of you who don't know those terms, these terms are most often applied to music within films. So, for example, diegetic music is music within a film that characters could hear. So if music is playing on a character's radio and that character could hear it, it's called diegetic music. Non-diegetic music would be the soundtrack or the score. The characters don't hear it, but it's a part of the film. In the case of Love in the Time of Global Warming, it is actually structured very much like Odysseus' journey through the Odyssey, including all the different stops he made along the way. And if you've read the Odyssey, it makes it extremely fun to draw all the very obvious parallels. But then just to add to that, Francesca Lia actually has her lead character, a young girl by the name of Penelope, carry around a battered copy of the Odyssey. By the way, yes, Penelope is our lead character, and she's searching for her brother, Venice, and her mother, along with their dog named Argus, who vanished after a series of earthquakes caused supposedly by global warming have left Los Angeles in a state of total ruin. In fact, almost everybody is dead. Those who have survived seem to have an uncanny ability which has allowed them to survive, meaning something happened in the wake of the Earth Shaker, as it's called, which was a great earthquake which struck Los Angeles. Something they did kept them alive. It's really actually pretty interesting, and along her journey, Penelope picks up a bit of a ragtag crew of people. Actually, all three of them are boys by the name of Hex, Lev, and Ash. All three of them actually in a way correspond I think, to some of the Greek gods who flit in and out of the Odyssey. It's really, really fascinating stuff, and I don't want to say too much for fear of giving away lots of spoilers, but if you're a huge fan of classical mythology, you're really going to enjoy this book. If you've read the Odyssey, you'll find all the parallels, and if you haven't, you might actually recognize some of the stops. I find that most people, even if they haven't read the Odyssey, are aware of at least some of the encounters that occur within the story, and you'll definitely find them here. And as if to make it even easier, Ms. Block will deliberately point out some of the parallels by having the characters themselves draw the parallels for you. There are a couple moments of just kind of weirdness that occur within the story involving kind of magic of sorts, but it's not enough that upsets me. In fact, I actually think it adds to the story. All in all, this was an incredibly charming, really well told reimagining of the story. I tend to be very, very antsy when people start messing with classical mythology because it's very, very near and dear to my heart. This is actually a timeline or family chart of all the Greek gods and heroes, starting with Uranus and Gaia, that's sky and earth, going all the way down through the progeny of the heroes of the Trojan War. I really, really, really like my mythology, guys. Probably helps because my maternal grandfather is a pretty well-renowned professor of the classics. This stuff's in my blood. I'm actually pretty okay with reimaginings as long as they're done well. Not only is this a brilliant reimagining, it's beautifully executed. Ms. Block knows her mythology and she knows how to do it well. I'm actually even more excited because I just found out this is sort of the start of a series. Her next book is apparently going to be tackling the Aeneid, a book which I have studied both in original Latin and in translation, so I am extremely excited to see what she does with that. It's actually a really short novel, as you can tell. It's only about 200 something pages, and so it's a really quick read. Probably took me a grand total of like 2 hours to read this story. So yes, I highly recommend Love in the Time of Global Warming by Francesca Lia if you haven't read it yet. I know these hardcovers, which are really, really beautiful, are starting to make their way off the shelves to make way for the new paperback that's going to be releasing. I'm really hoping the paperback still has this cover because it's absolutely gorgeous. So that's all from me today, you guys. I'm going to go and finish the book I am currently reading now. I'm about halfway through it. This one's going a little slower, but hopefully I'll have finished this one so then I can have another scheduled review in the morning with coffee for you guys. But until next time, cheers, you guys.